Hey folks, Fernando doing another video for more survivalists, and a little bit continuing with the topic of the previous video regarding the situation in Sweden, but now being asked about the economy, employment, how people get by with maybe a little bit less money in terms of education, healthcare, that sort of thing. So let's get to it. Here I have the email. It says, "Hi there again. Thank you very much for your video regarding my email. I have covered these bases, and although I understand that the threat of violence is the most imminent one, I would also appreciate an expansion about the economic point of view. The violence and immigrants are mainly a product of the real problem, which I believe is socialism. In Sweden, things happen slow, but now we really start to see that people do not have money, do not get adequate health treatment, and everything else related. I've gotten myself a job in security, and we've seen an annual 10% growth in that sector. Could you please elaborate through about money, wealth in a country that has everything regulated to the extent that you almost must go BS education just to do very simple tasks? The common opinion nowadays is in Sweden is that you have to start your own business to get things around. But taxes are also very high. Thank you once again." Okay, several things there. First, keep in mind that you are still very much in one of the most developed countries in the world. You may see lots of things that you don't like that much going on in Sweden, but again, things in perspective, it's really not that bad of a place to be in. And even though it may be, and I understand where you're coming from, that you see things being worse than they used to be, still very much not a bad place to be in. And you mentioned even some of the answers to your own questions when you talk about your job in terms of your job in security and how that has grown 10% in that sector. That is part of the solution, which is stuff that I have described in my first book, which I know you've read because of the first email that you sent me. I do explain in my first book that you have to find these different sectors where there's more opportunities being presented, where things are changing along with society, and new demands from the market are rising, and you have to satisfy those either through employment or through your own through your own business, starting maybe a new business, which is something you mentioned. I absolutely agree with that. And this isn't just Sweden. This is in most parts of the world these days. The ability of controlling your own employment, being self-employed in many cases, it's actually a very good way to go about it. Now, in terms of money and tight budgets, that sort of thing, well, it's just a matter of cutting unnecessary expenses, finding cheaper alternatives for those that you cannot do without. Being creative, proactive goes a long way, not only in your own employment, but also as an employer and as an employee. An employer is going to be looking someone that solves problems for them, that makes life easier for them, that gives them an edge, an advantage. And having a positive attitude goes a long way. I'm talking here from personal experience. When I was in the middle of Argentina, right after 2001, I'm talking about 2002 in Argentina, with a real 25% unemployment. I went out there and I got, in just a couple of weeks, I had 2 solid job offers when the people formed lines for entire blocks looking for a job. And the reason for that was being positive, a can-do attitude for anything that I was being asked. If I was being asked about, can you do this or that, and it wasn't something that I knew, don't worry about it. I'll find a solution. I'll make it work. I'll have it done. You can count on me getting things done to the best of my abilities, and I'm positive that they're quite good. So that kind of reply, in one case, the interviewer told me that kind of reply was what got me the job. The can-do mentality, the can-do attitude of, yes, if you're asking me about something I don't know, don't worry, it's not rocket science. I'll figure it out. I'll get it done. So that really does go a long way. Now, in terms of some of the other things that you're asking about for education, healthcare, that sort of thing. One of the problems that you have, and you mentioned socialism, which is again something that is not only in Sweden, in many parts of the world, it is government, controlling people more and more, taking advantage of people more and more. It's happening in several places around the world, and other than be proactive politically, voting for the right people, spreading the message, talking with your friends, your family, your children. That's as much as you can do, and try to be as least affected by it as possible. In terms of education, healthcare, maybe, and this is something to consider, maybe what you're looking for is a change of scenery within your country. And what I mean by this is maybe where you are right now is not offering what you're looking for. Here I'm talking about maybe a smaller community, a smaller town. Those places will have a lot less immigrants, will be a lot less stretched into resources for education, for healthcare. This is something I've seen in Northern Ireland, where I used to live, and it's I lived in a small town in Northern Ireland with a lower population, and one of the things you notice is that yes, absolutely, there's not a ton of, there was very few immigrants, practically none, especially in Northern Ireland. But one of the things you see is that, for example, I have nothing against immigrants. I was an immigrant myself over there. But if it's just one kid, two kids, sure, schools are able to deal with that because people move around because of employment, because of whatever. Now, when you have 30%, 50% of the kids in a class do not speak a word of the local language and have no interest whatsoever in learning it, that's a different situation. Even if you are one of those immigrants that wants to learn the local language and go ahead in life, you're going to be pulled back by that other 50% that has no interest in doing none of that. It's a lot more difficult when you have that situation going on. The same goes in terms of healthcare, how far the resources are being stretched in your little local hospital. It's not the same thing in London than it is in my little town in Northern Ireland, where you just go there and there's a very short waiting list. Anything you have to get done, it's usually quite fast. Middle of London's going to be a little bit of a different situation. So these are all things to keep in mind. About money, wealth, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's just about that, finding a way and making the best of what you can. There's lots of things that you can find in terms of budgeting, or in terms of saving money, making the most of whatever it is you have, and finding ways of making more of it. Sometimes it's not just about budgeting and saving money and not spending it. Sometimes it's about making more. Maybe even if you already are employed, maybe starting your own business part-time, doing something on weekends, something that makes you a little bit of an extra buck or two. That really does go a long way. So I hope I kind of answered a few of your questions here. Then regarding the classes, seminars, that sort of thing, yes, I'm all for it. I love the talking about these kind of things, and anyone in any country that in Europe that has anything like that in mind, it would be just a matter of talking about it. Send me an email through my website, which is going to be there somewhere there below, and we'll talk about it. I don't know how it's going to be, depending on where, how much time, I don't know, maybe a class, a couple hours, something like that. And usually it's going to be a short flight, but it's about talking about it, figuring it out, how much people would be needed for that sort of thing. But yes, it's definitely something I'm open to. And yeah, guys, that's going to be it for some of the other stuff that we talked about previously, especially regarding self-defense and taking care of yourself and improving your security. As I was saying in the previous video, my latest book is Street Survival Skills. It's now on a discount for Black Friday sort of thing. You can find it on Amazon, following some of the links below. And especially for what he's asking about here in terms of society changing and becoming a little bit more complicated, my first book, The Modern Survival Manual, is covering a lot of these things, also in Amazon, and the links and all that stuff. Guys, it's going to be all for now. See you on our next video. Have an awesome day.